Welcome to Horror on Trial. I'm Alex, and we're going to talk about An American Werewolf in London. This full episode will have spoilers from the introduction. If you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. Go watch, come back, and let's talk about it. I want to talk about An American Werewolf in London, even though the discussion may be a little bit shorter, but that's what these second episodes are, these B episodes every second week. But I want to talk about it because I'm always fascinated with the werewolf of it all. Are you a victim? Is it a curse that you can never escape? Are you a monster just because you're cursed? Do you have choice? Do you have will? I love An American Werewolf in London's take on it because there's an extra layer to that lore that makes it ever more fascinating. So we're going to look at David and his descent or transformation, his curse into becoming this werewolf, and also look at the lore, the choice that he has. Is it ever really a choice? And really pick apart that ending. On my first watch, I don't think I appreciated it enough because the ending threw me for a loop. But as I've rewatched the movie, as I've scripted this, I've started to really understand that he was stuck between a rock and a hard place, okay? David did not have a lot to choose. The dominoes fell in such an unfortunate way. So let's get into it. This is Horror on Trial.
I wanted to be good.
Something I gotta do.
We don't know how much it costed yet.
An American Werewolf in London is a 1981 film by John Landis, and it opens up in England. We are on the countryside, I would say. We have David and Jack. So these are two best friends. They've talked about memories going really far back in school, so they're really close. They're riding in the back of the truck with some sheep. We get to know their banter. We get to know their relationship. Already, it's really easy to like these characters. They're so charming, and I'm really excited to see where it takes them. And I was not prepared for what's to come. They are American, as the title suggests, and they're backpacking. So they're planning on some trips, they're going, but they are tourists, they are outsiders. They are really just doing the backpacking thing. They don't have a lot of plans, they don't really know where they are, they're hitchhiking, so where they end up, what they cross, sometimes it's just unfortunate events. It was never intended. They didn't go hunting for a werewolf, they didn't hear about some potential curse or potential sighting and show up. It just happened. They head to the slaughtered lamb. They're looking for some food and drink. It's late, they're lost, they're hungry, they want some tea, they just want to hang out, so they go into the slaughtered lamb. A very interesting name, a very interesting sign. Could we have predicted this was dangerous? Is this a red flag? Sure. I mean, I would love to go somewhere called the Slaughtered Lamb. Maybe not after watching this movie, but it just seems like a really cool place to go. So we can't blame anybody here. They're just going in, they're not knowing what to expect. When they walk in, everybody turns to look at them, almost as if to say, what are they doing here? And I don't even think it's because they're American or tourists. I think it's because they're outsiders. This seems like a very quiet, small town that they've stumbled upon, and I don't think they were expecting to see anybody, especially not tonight. So there's a couple red flags here, and then they look to the wall, and there is a 5-pointed star. And Jack is really interested in this. He wants David to ask what that's about. They want to know what is going on in this little bar, in this little town. What are they worshiping? What are they warding away? There's red flags, but again, they are just these innocent people on a walk, in a town, backpacking on a trip. They're not expecting what's to come. And in this movie, we'll definitely dive into it a little bit more later, they reference werewolf movies. So this is not like it is some known lore, it is fiction to them. It's always been fiction. There's some weird tension, some weird discussions, very standoffish, and I have to wonder, if the townspeople, and we know that they knew the danger that awaited them, why not put them up for the night? Why not offer to keep them overnight? Why not keep them in the bar? Why push them away, or at least make them feel uninvited? And even if you didn't want to be super friendly, when they left, why not really try to stop them? Why not tell them the truth? I have to wonder if it's a town secret, if they're worried about the backlash. Maybe they're even worried about them. What if they're werewolves? I don't really know, but they fail to warn them. But there is a discussion with some of the patrons and the bartender.
You just can't let them go?
The bartender says you can't let them leave, and most they really offer is stay on the road and beware the moon. Again, this is very cryptic. Why don't they just come out and say it? And they leave. And it is presented.
It's murder then. Then murder it is.
Then murder it is. It's like they know the fate that they are giving them, and I didn't realize how frustrated I was with the townspeople, and I cannot figure out why. The dominoes that fall, why they let them fall the way they did. The townspeople were in a lot of control in a lot of this movie. I was going to say early, but in a lot of the runtime, in a lot of the story, David is never in control. Well, there's one moment coming up that he's in control. That's a very highly debated moment, but we'll talk about it. So they walk off the road, they're laughing, they're singing, but it starts to rain and they get lost. Again, they're tourists, they don't know where they're going, they're distracted, it's raining. Should they have heeded some warning and paid a little bit more attention? Sure. Should they have been a little bit more prepared? Probably. But I can't really blame them. It's pouring rain, they get off the road, and when they realize they do say we should get back. But it's too late. We hear the wolf. The patrons of the bar hear it as well, but they say, I heard nothing.
I heard nothing.
I'm so mad at them, enraged. I'm trying to keep it together here, but we hear the wolf. Jack and David are definitely worried about this. They're concerned, but obviously they just think it's a wild animal. They just say, let's get back to the road. Let's get back to the road. And they're really trying their best to get back to the road here, but again, they're lost. They don't know the terrain. They don't know where they are. They don't even know where to go. Where is the road? Where does the road lead? They don't even really know what the road looks like. They're victims of their environment. They're tourists, and they were failed by the town. So already this curse, although it comes from a werewolf, the townspeople kind of curse them. Then we have the gruesome attack. I was not prepared for this. I was not prepared to lose Jack so early, and I was not prepared for it to be as visceral as it was. It was painful. It was terrifying, and it was so sudden. There was no real circling. There was no time to think. It just happened, and David had to make a choice in that moment. David first, out of pure fear, fight or flight, he runs. He runs away. Jack is pinned down by this beast, and he is being scratched up, bitten, eaten. It is just so sad for Jack. And David runs away, which is a very debated point, because he did abandon his friend for a moment. But could he have saved him? Could David, with his own two hands, fight off the werewolf? Would they have both been victims? Could he have helped him? We will never know, and you can debate that amongst yourself, but when we look at the werewolf and what it does, and we see the werewolf, I don't think David could have done anything. He may have been a distraction, but if one of them dies and the other doesn't, it's the same conclusion. David does decide to run back, so he turns around. He's already too far. It's too late for Jack, and luckily for David, the townspeople have finally decided to get off their asses, and they come out and they shoot the wolf just as it is attacking David. So David is allowed to survive. Jack, unfortunately, it's too late. And saying he's able to survive is an interesting choice of words, because is this even really survival? It's almost like a curse of being undead, in my opinion. It's so interesting because on Horror on Trial, we could argue the morality of David's decision to run away, although it may just be reactionary, and he did turn around. If he would have stayed and fought or helped, could he have done something? The fatal choice is actually the moral one in this discussion. The choice that we could argue he should make, go help his friend, save him, try anything, that is the decision, whether it happened right away or in a couple minutes after he ran away for a little bit, is the choice that damned him, that even cursed Jack. It's hard to argue that he should have helped his friend, because even turning around to help his friend is what causes all of this. But we cannot blame David. I do not blame David. I can't. I can't blame him for his response to run away at first. I can't blame him for deciding to turn around. It's Jack. Of course he's going to turn around. And I can't blame him for not knowing to beware the werewolf, because he wasn't properly warned. Okay? I'm not going to make sense of a puzzle you're giving me, all these warnings, all these signs. Tell me there's a werewolf and I will be cursed for life. And then guess what? I will make sure to stay on the road. And we look at the remains of the wolf. It is just a bloody man who has been shot. And now we're at the recovery stage. So we actually join David in a hospital. He is in London. This American Werewolf is now in London. He's in the hospital and he is unsure of where he is. He wants to know where Jack is. He's definitely confused, but he looks healthy. In this hospital, we start to see him have these odd dreams. They start normal enough. He's running in the woods. He may be naked, but he's just running around. I feel like anybody could dream that. And then we find out that he's been unconscious for 3 weeks, which now I understand why we did that timeline, because the full moon needs time to come back around. I get it now. I've only watched this movie like several times and read this script several times, but yeah, full moon, it's coming. It's also revealed that Jack is dead. Sorry for the tonal shift, but Jack is definitely dead. And so starts the cover-up. David keeps insisting that it was a wolf or an animal, something that attacked them. I mean, he even has scratches, and they say, no, it's a lunatic that escaped. We have the body. We have an autopsy. This is fair. They're not gaslighting him. This hospital is not hiding anything. There was literally a man that was shot that they took in. But looking at David's damage, and I'm sure if you looked at Jack, could a man really do this? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not the police, so maybe I have to just agree with them. But for me, unlikely. So the police are satisfied. The doctors and nurses are helping him heal. Why would anybody go digging any further? And that's realistic. Why would anybody dig further? Shut and closed. Case closed. But I understand David frustrated because it's not what he experienced. But he obviously doubts himself. He's been unconscious for 3 weeks. It's traumatic. It was dark. It was raining. He's kind of mixed up. He doesn't know what to believe. So we're introduced to Alex, which is one of his nurses. They have a love story that comes back around for sure. I'm not going to walk through every moment of this, but I do want to say I do really enjoy Alex. I'm not sure that she abides by all her rules as a nurse. I'm not sure if this is really the best way to meet someone, and there are times where I do wish she took some of his symptoms seriously, even if she didn't think it was a werewolf. She's another Alex, so of course I love her, but I don't think she's without blame, but I also don't think she's to blame of the entire situation. She doesn't understand that he's a werewolf, and she definitely doesn't believe it until she's faced with it. So David keeps having these just really weird dreams. We're getting jump scares. We are getting insane kind of visuals. They're not really telling me anything. I don't know if you interpret anything from them. But what I do think that it does, that adds to David's confusion and definitely takes away, I would say, some of his control or even belief in the situation, is he can't really trust what he's seeing, what he's experiencing. He thinks he's dreaming, maybe even hallucinating. Things are weird in his head. So when he sees Jack, it's easy to write off. And then we have our first visit from Jack himself, but he is not alive. He's dead. Very dead. To the point where you can see he is visibly dead. It looks great. It looks really great in the movie. It holds up, and I just love that Jack is still on screen because I do miss him. So Jack says thanks a lot, and David doesn't know if he's awake or if he's dreaming. How could he be seeing Jack? He does engage in the conversation, but he's not sure if what he's experiencing is real. Maybe this is just some kind of mind thing that's happening that can help him with his guilt or his grief, whether he's feeling either one of those. But the conversation goes on, and Jack reveals some lore that I absolutely love that changes this discussion entirely. Jack warns him that he was attacked by a werewolf, which means he will become a werewolf himself. And the souls, the victims that have been killed by the werewolf, they are forced to live in limbo. They cannot rest until the bloodline is severed.
And now I walk the earth in limbo until the werewolf's curse is lifted.
And so if David is the werewolf,
the last remaining werewolf must be destroyed.
That is the only way the victims can rest. This is already a very big burden to bear. Just you being alive means souls are being tortured. especially when one of those souls are your friends, and they can visit you. They can show you the pain. They can tell you what they're experiencing. You get to see them deteriorate. It's horrifying. How can you live with yourself? But that's just one aspect, because Jack reminds us, David, you'll kill people.
It's you, David.
You will also become a werewolf. You will hurt people. It's not just the souls that are already lost. You're going to add more to this limbo. You're going to hurt more people. There's going to be more loss, more violence, more gore. And it's going to be from you. This is a choice. The ball is in David's court, we'll say. But how could we, as a viewer, even expect David to believe this and make such a drastic decision? Is some of what he's saying sound right? David does think he was attacked by a wolf. But David is not exhibiting any signs of a werewolf. He's having dreams and talking to the dead, but that could be grief and trauma. That's not enough to say you're a werewolf.
I'm a werewolf.
He does say, I'm a werewolf, so I don't think that he absolutely disbelieves what's going on, but I don't think that he believes enough to make a choice. Alex assures him that he's dreaming, and she's very grounding, which would be healthy in a real relationship. Not that this isn't real, but in a normal relationship. But in a relationship with a werewolf, this grounding is helping David avoid the truth. And I do actually think that his love for Alex and this very adorable love story that happens is one of the reasons that makes it so hard for him to make this choice. If he was all alone in London and just believed in this fate, I do have to wonder if he would have made that choice earlier. It's something to think about. As David and Alex's love is blossoming and they're living together in her flat, Jack makes his second visit. He looks visibly worse, and David does say, "You're not real." So he is believing that this is just a symptom of his healing. It's an effect of what happened to him. But Jack tries to assure him, "Oh, I'm real. This is real." And Alex will come out later and say that she heard two voices. It makes me wonder if she could have seen Jack. Can Jack present himself to other people? Can she just hear it? Because if she hears two voices, or maybe I misheard that, but I'm almost sure she heard two voices. If there's a clip, you'll hear it.
What's wrong? I heard voices.
I really do think that David is starting to believe Jack and to believe what he is, but I do think it would be crazy to act on it. At this point, and this is the hard part, especially in this type of transformation that we're going to get to, when he can really believe what's going on, it's too late. If nobody that can really prove it can prove it before it happens, it's always going to be too late. It was too late from the moment they stepped into that town, I believe. No, actually, I think it was too late the moment the townspeople let them leave. I do think there was control in that situation, and the townspeople failed miserably. And they'll continue to fail. They'll continue to piss me off.
A werewolf can only be killed by someone who loves him.
This is one of the parts where, even if Alex doesn't believe that he's a werewolf and he's getting visited by his dead friend, he's losing his mind. He's being told really scary things. He's feeling all these really deep feelings. Maybe bring him back to the hospital. Maybe get him into therapy. Maybe call the doctor. Don't just act like you can be a girlfriend and fix this. You know, that's my one issue with Alex. You're a nurse. Take this more seriously. And then we go back to the slaughtered lamb. The doctor is actually suspicious enough to investigate, which I found very interesting, but we'll see what his hypothesis is when we get there. But he goes back to the lamb. Everyone's not friendly, I would say. I don't know if they like outsiders, or maybe they know that people are going to poke their heads around and ask questions. Because they actually healed David to the point that he could be transported to London. They dressed his wounds, they cleaned him up, and they sent him to London. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. The townspeople still refuse to explain. They're really trying to remove themselves from their situation. Knowing what they know, why would they let David go? Why would they let him go to London, of all places? Why would they not just kill David? I know it sounds horrible, but they know what the curse entails. They know what they're putting at risk. Or maybe they just don't care because it's going to be out of their territory. And maybe they couldn't do that because it would be bodies upon bodies, and how do they explain that? But I mean, you explain Jack, you explain David with the lunatic, you could have swung something. Now you're going to have to explain a werewolf. So, I don't know. You didn't make any right decisions. And one of the men in the slaughtered lamb, they hide outside for the doctor.
It's almost full moon.
He's afraid to tell him, which I'm still suspicious. Like, why is this so secretive? Why are the town protecting the secret, almost protecting David? Another man actually catches this man telling the doctor things and gets mad, and I have to wonder, if you've made all these choices that have led to here, and you know a full moon is coming, and the people of London and David himself are at risk, why would you not do everything in your power? Mail an anonymous letter, make an anonymous phone call. Why are we not sharing this? Did I miss something? Why is it so secretive? But one thing that is very prominent in this movie is there's always an emphasis that David is in danger, but he's not the only one.
He's the one who's in danger, and not just him.
Everybody's in danger. What David is going to experience is not really going to, I was going to say hurt him. It definitely does. He's a victim in his own way. But he's also the monster, the killer. He's going to hurt people. And now we've reached the full moon. Alex has gone to work. David is home alone. There's cats hissing at him, dogs growling at him. He's sweating. He can't eat, but he's hungry. Things are weird. There's something in the back of his mind thinking that this could be real, but not to a point, again, where I think he's convinced enough to do anything about it. This is the part I was talking about earlier where David references a Wolfman movie.
Did you ever see The Wolfman?
This is all fiction to him. This is not real. When someone tells you you're a werewolf, you don't think about folklore or something that could really happen. This is fiction. So why would he believe it? The issue with this, as there's been so many issues and just all the wrong dominoes falling, this transformation was not gradual. He did not start crawling on all fours. He did not start growing some hair. The transformation was brutal and it was swift. There was not really warning signs besides Jack. Jack was the one giving the warning, but it wasn't enough to believe. So it's too late. Unfortunately, it's just too late now. David transforms in one of, if not the best, werewolf transformation on film. It is just amazing. There was no avoiding it, and this transformation was brutal. It was painful. We really see David as a victim. We see him lose himself. He's in pain. And he just starts to not only transform physically, I would say, into this werewolf, but also lose himself mentally or consciously. He becomes the werewolf. The werewolf takes over. And nobody could have stopped this unless David somehow believed Jack, or if the townspeople did the right thing. But they didn't. So now we have a werewolf running around in London, of all places. And David is now not just a victim, he's a killer. So we start to see victims. There's a couple attacked. There are some men out having a fire who are attacked. And Alex gets a call from the doctor and says that he wants to intervene. He doesn't believe that David is actually a werewolf. He thinks it's a mass psychosis. So he thinks that despite David not actually being a werewolf, that he may actually commit murder thinking he is one. He would do the damage of a werewolf, but it would be a mental thing. It wouldn't actually be the physical transformation that we see, which would be a lot less of an interesting movie. I'd much rather him really be a werewolf, as sad as it is for David. It's fascinating to me that the doctor went here and investigated it and is like, yeah, it's a mass psychosis. I guess you have to rationalize it, because again, in this world, werewolf movies exist. It's fiction. So I guess that makes sense. During this night of attacks and the doctor and Alex trying to figure out where David is, because they call Alex's apartment and of course there's no answer. David is now in a train station. London is a busy place. It is a crowded place. Seeing a werewolf in a train station or a metro station, whatever I'm supposed to call it, is terrifying. It's hard to find safety or even have David have a choice of going somewhere where he can not hurt anybody, which is a choice maybe he could make after this transformation. But this first transformation, he doesn't have any control. He's not David at all. He is the werewolf. He had no moment to think, to hide, to lock doors. He was a werewolf and he was loose in London. The townspeople sent him to London. Why? Where's the woods? Why? People in your town could have just stayed on the road. He's in the freaking train station. I'll never understand. I'll never understand it. For the townspeople, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's not their problem. It's London's. And London's it is. Especially this poor man in this terminal. I am so sorry to you, sir. And then David wakes up. After his night of terror and being a werewolf for the first time, he wakes up in a zoo, naked, in a wolf enclosure. And this is such a light moment for the movie. It's so funny. There's levity. The more I watch this movie, every charming moment with David makes this more depressing. So although the visuals are funny, he's trying to trade balloons with a kid so he can cover himself up. He gets this coat. It's all silly, silly, silly. We know the reality of the situation that's happened, and David remembers nothing. So he does not know what's happened, and we're waiting for him to find out. The movie is giving us a breath of fresh air, but the story, it doesn't. The story's not breathing in any fresh air. It's forever tainted. So then we learn about the aftermath. First, David returns to Alex, and the doctor wants to bring him in. Alex has him. She's worried about him. He doesn't remember anything. And the doctor just says, get in a cab, get him here right now. And they're in the cab, and David is feeling better than he ever has. I guess this is also part of being a werewolf and I guess feeding or transforming. He's so happy. He's on like a high, like an adrenaline rush, like he's trying to come down. It is so happy for him and he's so in love in this moment, but we know the reality. What just happened to you? Why you feel like this? And then as we are in the taxi, the cab driver says, "Did you hear about the murders?"
The murders.
And as soon as he says this, Alex knows, David knows. We don't need Jack to explain it. David knows he did this. He may not remember it, but the warnings, the not understanding, the waking up, he knows. Now the red flags, the clues, you can put it together. And so David exits the cab and he runs away. He runs up to the police. He's putting on a show. Arrest me, take me in. You have to take me in. People are going to get hurt. Alex is trying to calm him down. And I guess truthfully, him in a jail cell, would that really help? Maybe he'll turn into Wolf Cop. I had to make the reference. As much as Alex, I don't think, believes that he's actually a werewolf, she may start to buy into this psychosis, but I think she just wants to protect him. I was a little frustrated watching this at first because I wanted to shout at Alex, you don't know what you're doing, you're not helping him, you should be away from him, get away from him. But again, being in a jail cell, the police taking him, I don't really think that is also the answer, so I don't think either of them know that, but it worked out that way. And I love when he says along the lines of, how can I lose control? What control?
David, don't lose control!
Control what control?
He's understanding that he has no control of the situation. He had no awareness or memory during being a werewolf, at least that we didn't see, and at least that he doesn't remember. He tells Alex to stay away from him because he's dangerous now. And he's starting to realize he does need to separate people. He needs to go away. And unfortunately, go away in London. How far can you go? He doesn't really think about a plan B, and I think it's because it happened so fast. Where does he have time to think about where to hide to? What to do? What's the other option? David makes the phone call in the phone booth, and it is sad. He calls his parents. He's going to say goodbye, but his little sister answers the phone. And it's one of those phone calls that sounds like you're just checking in and you're just reminding everybody that you love them and you're happy and everything is good. But it's a goodbye. You don't say a goodbye outright, but this is your goodbye. And he has a blade. He's in this phone booth, but he can't do it. He runs to a theater because he sees Jack outside waving, and Jack, he's looking worse than ever. Okay, Jack barely looks like Jack anymore, but it's him. It's him all right. But he's not alone this time. And I don't know if in this moment David couldn't do it because he just didn't have the strength to do that. It's much easier to understand you have to make that choice than to actually do it. The act of that is not an easy act. Or maybe he still has some doubt. And either or, I think, is a reasonable excuse or reason to not do it. In the theater, theater. I'm always going to say it differently. David sits down and there is a very spicy movie playing, which again, we're adding so much humor. Like, this movie is sprinkled with humor. I think David and Jack are both so charming. Everything is lighthearted in those little moments, but when we come back to what's really happening, it's just so dark. And I think those light moments make me fall in love with the characters so much more that it makes the story devastating. I really don't know if there was another way, which we'll talk about in the witness testimony, but we are talking to Jack right now, and I said he's not alone. In the theater, which is also civilians, which is dangerous, are the new victims. The new victims are sat there, their souls stuck in limbo, looking at David. How could you do this to us? We have families. It is, again, not done in a way that is devastating. It's lighthearted for sure in how it's presented, but it is devastating when you pick apart what's happening. And this is where the lore gets really interesting, because you could say, just go out in the woods, go live amongst the trees, avoid people. These souls are always going to be in limbo. It's too late. There's victims. It doesn't matter if you never hurt another person. These souls are suffering, and one of them is Jack. So it's not an easy choice. There's no easy solution here. David is very well cursed. And then we have the second transformation. David begins to transform in the theater.
Please, go away.
He warns them to get away from him. He's going to be dangerous, but it's too late. There is now a werewolf in the theater. He's not in control of his impulses, at least. Maybe this time around, and I think we'll see soon, he has a little bit more awareness. And even if he wasn't attacking, when he exits the theater, when he breaks through the door and all the people are mowed down, his presence itself is chaos. It causes car wrecks. It causes people to get killed just with his presence. Him being in London is an issue in itself. Again, townspeople, I hate you. I was really crying at this point because David is a killer. At least he's trapped inside one, or a killer is trapped inside him. I do see him and this werewolf as two different things, but the reality is he can't escape it because it is him. If it was two different things, there may be something we can do. Maybe if he was only unconscious for 2 weeks, maybe if we knew somebody who could cure this or anything, there would be another solution, but he's in London, he's a werewolf. Something's got to give. The doctor wakes Alex and tells him of the mad dog running down around town and all the chaos happening. She understands this is David. It's time to accept reality. First, I didn't like this ending because I wanted something better. I wanted something more. I think it's because I like David so much, and because it happened in werewolf form, and because we didn't get any of Jack being like, thank you. I don't know. I feel like I just was so invested in the characters. I wanted to really see that it was David making this final stand to do the right thing, but let's be serious. This story is so much richer. It's so much powerful in how it ends right here. David is cornered in an alley. There is a whole brigade of men with guns. I hope I use that word right. And Alex pushes through. It's in my horror and trial intro because it's just, I am getting chills thinking about it. It just really gets to me. She runs through and she sees him. She talks to him. She's trying to get to him.
Please let me help you.
And this moment, I'm still not completely sure how I feel about it because David is looking at her. The werewolf is looking at her. But it feels like for a split second, David is looking at her. But I really want to believe that what happens next was David having one little bit of self-control, because I want him in these last moments, because these are his last moments. I want them to be in his control. I would rather it be his choice than the werewolf, the monster, winning and the impulse happening. But either way, he lunges at Alex, which, of course, causes the guns to fire. And then we see the naked body of David, and he's dead. And the credits roll. The curse is broken. I don't think anybody else has turned into a werewolf. We can't be sure, I guess. But we hope that Jack is resting peacefully. I don't know where werewolves go when they die, but I feel like David's soul deserves to go somewhere nice. Alex is definitely forever traumatized, and me as a viewer, I want to believe that was David in that last choice, that last moment. I want to believe David made that lunge knowing he wasn't going to hurt Alex, but it was going to get him killed, because doing that yourself is a lot more difficult. You know, this was him making that choice for himself, but he didn't have to do the action, and the action is the hard part when given this curse. Or maybe the monster really did take over, and out of impulse he would have hurt Alex if he wasn't shot. I'd refuse to believe that, actually, but let me know what you think. Before I give you my final thoughts on if David ever really had a choice or if he was cursed from the start, I'm going to go over some witness testimony, which is mentions or comments from my community on Horror on Trial or somewhere in October. Matthew Constantine says, "Cursed. I don't think he had a choice beyond doing what his friend and victim's ghosts suggested. It's hard to see it any other way. It's hard. A lot of people think he was cursed from the start, and it's hard to debate it, but we'll see what some people had to say in terms of options." Meal Lipusili. I cannot read your username, but it says, "I guess if the police had arrested him when he was trying to get arrested, but even then he might face murder charges and life in prison after they figure out he's a werewolf. Also, his victim's ghost would still haunt him for the rest of his life. There wasn't an established cure in this film's canon, so I think the true happy ending was off the table." And that's the thing, there's so many layers. We were given lore, we were never given a solution. You know, Jack learned this lore when he died. If there was another option, you would think Jack, being a friend to David, would say, you either have to remove yourself or we can do this. It was never really an option. And David, if he confessed or tried to be taken into custody, his name would be ruined, but he's still a werewolf. Anytime you are around people and he knows that he didn't really have control over himself, he's a danger. It's hard to think there's any other thing he could have done. Jeb Manning says, "Honestly, in this case, probably not. The only thing I could think of is David living a remote life away from people where he could do no harm. Sadly, there was never enough time for him to figure out a choice for himself." And that's just exactly right. The transformation was all at once. Maybe if he believed Jack at the very moment, but you can't blame him for not believing it. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, what he was dreaming. But I really do think the townspeople could have changed his whole story. A lot of people say that David was damned from the moment he met the werewolf. I think he was damned the moment the townspeople let him leave. The werewolf cursed him, but the town damned him. And that's exactly what I think. The townspeople, they damned David and Jack. They didn't do their role. They should have some responsibility to protect people that pass through this town. They know the reality of the situation. I have to wonder why they didn't. And obviously, when we talk about the choices they made, we also have to think about the choices they made for the movie. Of course, the movie had to go on and it happened this way. But if we were to just take the story, we could say, yes, the townspeople should have done something. They had so much time, whether that be not letting them leave, telling them the truth, coming out earlier with that gun, anything. Like, if they were going to come out with that gun anyway, why not warn them at the start? Like, got involved anyway, you dressed his wounds, and then you sent him to London? Why didn't you lock him up in a box or something? It's just insane to me. And Jack, I mean, we look at David and it's so sad, but Jack is also living in his own hell. He's mauled by a werewolf, and we watch him slowly disintegrate as his soul is left in limbo because he has to beg his best friend to end his life. It's just so sad, and this movie does such a good job at masking how depressing it is because it's so charming. It's so fun to watch. It's a breeze to watch, but when you really pick it apart, it's really sad. David never had a choice. He never had a chance. There was never enough time. There was never enough evidence. There was never enough people with conviction telling him what he needed to hear. And I think even the moment David believed what he was in that phone booth, he did not have the courage. I don't really want to say that word here, but he didn't have the strength to do what needed to be done. And it's weird talking about that, but we're talking about it in a werewolf. Okay, this is strictly for a werewolf scenario. Knowing you have to make that choice to save others, sacrificing to save others, is an easier choice to make than it is an action to do. Which is why I think the ending was the way it was, and why I choose to believe that although David was damned, that the moment that he could have any control, the moment he saw Alex, the moment she grounded him, even in werewolf form, we've seen this, the moment he had a little bit of a choice, he ended it in the best way he could, the only way he could, I would say. It's a depressing movie. It's a depressing discussion because I love Jack and I love David, but they were cursed from the start. The moment they met that werewolf, and the townspeople were no help to them. The townspeople got to live their lives as normal, basically. Honestly, probably better. They've eradicated the werewolf from their place. Maybe that's why they shipped him off. Maybe they didn't want to live under this curse, but an anonymous letter would have went a long way. And even if the townspeople, I guess, did all of this, would it still be on deaf ears? Would David really still be able to do anything? The only thing they really could have done was put David out of his misery, which sounds wrong, and obviously you can't do that for the movie to keep going, but I think it may have been the right decision if they would have made that choice. Let me know what you think of An American Werewolf in London, what you think of these discussions, these stories, these characters, these decisions, and I will see you next Wednesday. This is Horror on Trial.